You knew something was wrong long before they left. Not because they said it. Not because they disappeared. But because you slowly became the only person protecting something that no longer needed two people to survive. The first sign is almost always small. You send a message. They read it. The typing bubble appears. Then it disappears. You put your phone down and tell yourself not to overthink. 20 minutes later you check again. Nothing. An hour later they post a story. 2 hours later they are active. Your message is still sitting there. And suddenly a simple reply begins controlling your entire evening. That is usually where emotional imbalance begins. Not when someone leaves. When one person starts waiting. You remember when things felt different. When they used to reply before you finished typing. When they asked questions. When they wanted details. When they noticed things about your day that even your friends ignored. Back then, your attention felt valuable. Your absence felt noticeable. Your name on their phone created excitement. But attention rarely disappears all at once. It leaves quietly. One day they stop saying good morning first. A week later they stop asking how your day was. Eventually you realize every conversation starts with you. You tell yourself people get busy. You tell yourself relationships become comfortable. You tell yourself not to make problems where none exist. But deep down you know something changed. Because you remember what enthusiasm felt like. And this isn't it. One night you decide not to text first. You tell yourself this is only an experiment. You want to see whether they notice. Hours pass. Nothing. You check your phone anyway. Still nothing. You go to sleep. The next morning becomes uncomfortable. The second day feels heavier. By the third day you convince yourself they must be waiting for you too. So you send a message. The conversation continues immediately. And that is when something inside you breaks. Because you realize the relationship did not survive because both people wanted it. It survived because you refused to let it die. People rarely prepare themselves for that realization. The understanding that the effort was never equal. That your concern was never equal. That your fear of losing them was far greater than their fear of losing you. And once you see it, you cannot stop seeing it. You notice they laugh harder around other people. You notice they become more curious with strangers. You notice them asking questions they no longer ask you. You watch them become emotionally alive in conversations where you barely exist. And suddenly you begin competing against people who don't even know you exist. You compare yourself to names, followers, friends, co-workers, people who receive attention you now have to earn. The humiliation is difficult to explain. Because nobody rejected you. Nobody replaced you. But you feel replaceable anyway. That feeling changes people. You become easier, more understanding, more patient. You stop mentioning things that hurt. You stop asking difficult questions. You pretend late replies do not bother you. You act emotionally independent while checking your phone every 10 minutes. You tell your friends you do not care. Then you spend the entire night waiting. The frightening part is how quickly your standards disappear. Months earlier you would have walked away. Now you feel grateful for basic affection. One message changes your mood. One compliment repairs your confidence. One good conversation gives you hope for another week. And eventually you begin surviving on moments that used to feel ordinary. You start checking whether they viewed your story. You notice how quickly they respond to other people. You hear excitement in their voice that you no longer receive. You watch them scroll while you are talking. You notice they stop asking deeper questions. Conversations become updates. The emotional atmosphere changes. And perhaps the most painful part is that they never announce it. Nobody says, "You matter less now." Nobody says, "I stopped wondering about you." Nobody says, "Your presence became familiar." It simply happens. Quietly. Until one day you realize you spend more time remembering who they used to be than experiencing who they are. You reread old conversations. You search for old versions of them. You revisit moments when they cared more. You try to understand when things changed. But relationships rarely collapse in one moment. People drift. Attention drifts. Curiosity drifts. And eventually emotional distance becomes normal. You begin speaking carefully. You think before every message. You delete texts. Rewrite sentences. Wait before replying. You become less honest. Less natural. You stop expressing yourself and start managing yourself. Because somewhere inside you there is a fear. If you become difficult, they might leave. If you become emotional, they might leave. If you ask for too much, they might leave. And so you slowly become smaller. That is the damage attachment often creates. You begin measuring your value through reactions. A fast reply feels reassuring. A delayed reply feels threatening. Silence feels personal. Distance feels dangerous. Your emotional world becomes dependent on somebody else's attention. And the terrifying part is realizing how little they have to give you to keep you there. One message. One compliment. One late-night conversation. Suddenly everything feels okay again. Until it doesn't. Because relief is not security. And many people spend months confusing the two. At some point you notice something even more painful. Your absence changes nothing. You stop texting. Nothing happens. You become quieter. Nothing changes. You pull away. They continue their life. And perhaps that is when people finally understand what they were afraid of all along. Not losing someone. Becoming ordinary to them. Because people can survive rejection. What destroys them is realizing they stopped affecting somebody emotionally. You remember when your arrival mattered. When your messages created excitement. When your attention felt valuable. Now you feel tolerated. Accepted. Expected. And eventually invisible. You begin asking questions you never wanted to ask. Did they ever need me? Did they ever choose me? Was I simply available? Was I simply convenient? Because some people never fully choose. They enjoy being wanted. They enjoy emotional attention. They enjoy knowing someone is there. But they continue protecting their options. Not always other people. Sometimes possibilities. Freedom. Distance. Uncertainty. They leave emotional doors unlocked. And the person who falls deepest usually notices this last. Because attachment creates hope. Hope explains everything. Hope ignores signs. Hope tells you they are busy. Hope tells you they are confused. Hope tells you things will return to normal. But eventually reality becomes impossible to ignore. You realize they always had emotional freedom. And you did not. They could disappear. You could not. They could take space. You panicked. They could become distant. You moved closer. And that is why emotional imbalance feels so devastating. Because you discover that while you were trying to become unforgettable, they were simply keeping their options open. The worst part is not losing them. It is looking back and seeing how many times you betrayed yourself to stay. The messages you sent. The pain you ignored. The standards you lowered. The silence you accepted. The parts of yourself you slowly abandoned. And somewhere inside that realization lives the question people carry for years. If someone can make you feel chosen without actually choosing you, how would you know the difference? Because attention can feel like love. Consistency can feel like commitment. Chemistry can feel like certainty. And sometimes you do not discover the truth until you realize something terrifying. You were planning a future. They were simply enjoying the present. You thought you were building something. They thought they were seeing where things go. You believed you occupied a permanent place. They always kept another door unlocked. And that is why some people leave long before they leave. Because emotionally, they never fully arrived. You were never their only option. You were simply the person who believed they were. If this felt uncomfortably familiar, subscribe for more psychological explorations of human behavior.